the Healing Through Love podcast with Sharlene Lynch and Rose Davidson. Discover tips on authenticity, alignment and assertive living with Sandra Possing in episode 99.
And that's why I love working with people, especially around the identity around money. Because like you were saying, you can reach incredible heights. And I see this all the time. People have so much success financially and then just absolutely sabotage themselves without even realizing, because they don't have the internal state, the identity, the frequency of somebody who is comfortable with that, who can handle it responsibly, who is willing to look at their numbers, or who feels safe in their bodies, who can regulate their nervous systems, who can even think the thoughts that don't spiral out of control and go into anxiety. So it's this whole identity transformation, I think, when we become more magnetic in general, but then especially with money and abundance and wealth consciousness.
Welcome to another episode of Healing Through Love. Each week, we share ideas, experiences, and resources to increase the awareness of domestic and family violence and to empower survivors to grow and thrive. We talk with experts who share their advice, or with people who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey. This is all about healing through love. And now, here are your hosts, Sharlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to the Healing Through Love podcast, a space where stories of strength, resilience and transformation unfold. I'm your host, Sharlene Lynch, and I'm honoured to be your guide on this journey of empowerment and healing. Today we have a very special episode tailored specifically for you. Whether you're driving, sipping a cup of tea, or simply taking a moment for yourself, I want you to know that you're in a safe place. Healing Through Love is more than a podcast. It's a community, a global community, a beacon of hope, and a reminder that you are not alone. In this episode, we have a guest who will share their stories that resonates with the core of our mission, a story that illuminates the power of love, resilience, and unwavering strength that lies within each of us. So settle in, take a deep breath, and let the healing begin. But before we dive into today's inspiring narrative, a quick reminder. If you find value in our episodes, consider supporting us and subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your engagement helps us and the hearts and spread the message of healing through love. Today, I'd love to introduce you to Sandra Possing, a dynamic speaker, coach, and lifestyle entrepreneur. She's a millennial and she works with Gen X women, helping them unleash their inner badass and manifest their dream life. She's born in Scandinavia, raised in Los Angeles, and currently based in San Francisco Bay Area, and embodies the digital nomad lifestyle and runs her personal development company from wherever she is with her laptop. Hello and welcome.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. I'm super stoked to be here.
It's such a blessing. Now, where did all of this begin? Because you just don't wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a digital nomad. What's the story?
Well, so the story, it's funny because looking back now, it all makes a lot of sense. Whereas in the moment, as I think most of us can relate to, a lot of it makes no sense whatsoever. And it's so easy to feel so lost and confused during the ups and downs. But as I look back now, I'm 43, and I look back at kind of my origin story. Like you said, I was born in Scandinavia, and then I moved to Los Angeles when I was 5. So just right off the bat, I had 2 families, 2 cultures, 2 languages, going back and forth during school breaks. And so I was growing up with this kind of a global mindset and global influence. So I always felt like a little bit of an outsider here in the US. I always felt incredibly European here. And then whenever I go home to Scandinavia, I feel incredibly American. And so it's like the identity piece of being, I remember back in my early 20s, I used to call myself, a mobile world citizen. This is way before I had ever heard the term digital nomad or started traveling while working or any of that. I just knew that there was this need to be able to travel and have location freedom and that kind of a thing. And then in terms of the work that I do, like so many of us who I think end up in coaching or healing or helping types of fields and professions, so much of the work that I do is a result of my own challenges and my own ups and downs. And it was like, I kind of look at, I had, we all have many challenges, but mine came in big chapters. The first big chapter was self-worth, which has many subchapters with it, and people pleasing and perfectionism and all this different stuff. And then the second big chapter was career. It was just trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to be when I grew up. And then eventually found coaching, and it was like I just came home. And then the third big chapter was money and everything around money, and having money just be this constant stress and anxious, journey of making it all work. And so now I look back at the work that I've been doing for the last 12 years and worked with a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, but the themes have been consistent. It's almost always been about empowerment, self-worth, people figuring out, women especially, figuring out who they are and what they actually want, and standing up for themselves and letting go of their whatever challenging pasts and healing from those things. And then for a while, it was helping a lot of people with their careers or starting businesses. And then now it's mostly around financial empowerment and helping women, especially entrepreneurs, feel more empowered about money, basically change their entire relationships with money. And so much of my own journey, it's like it all makes sense now. Whereas while I was in it, it was just, felt like a hot mess train wreck half the time. It was very confusing.
I love the hot mess. It is, it's who I am. I love it. I love it.
Go.
And yeah, so look, that's absolutely fascinating. And your words echo stories of many entrepreneurs going through finding out who they are, finding out whether they belong or if they belong, or and all of the stories that they tell themselves to help them up level. And the story that you were sharing in and around money and value and worth, and how we really need to really focus on that area so that we can increase in our own eyes our value and worth, so that we can become magnetic to money, because otherwise we will find a way to sabotage it. It's absolutely
100%.
fascinating. I see it time and time again that when we don't level up to where we want to be living in that new level of life, is that we'll find a way to self-sabotage. It's not anyone else, it's us that's doing it. I speak personally from my own experience. I managed to destroy $1 million business. I know, right? And that's because, I got there and I'm looking around, I'm like, is this who I am? Do I really belong here? Am I good enough for this? Well, I clearly was, because I created it and then I destroyed it. So yes, you're speaking a language I understand. And yes, and that really taught me lots of lessons as well, though, in hindsight, not during the process. So today, if you're listening to us and you feel that you're scaling up, you're leveling up, you're going to the next level, this is the time when you need to have a deep conversation with someone in and around being magnetic to money, because you don't want to get there and then have it destroyed. So yeah, so this is all of the things that Sandra teaches. So she dives in deep about self-care and boundaries and authenticity and being your true self and understanding your true value. And she's got this great freebie. It's called Making Yourself Magnetic. So it's all about being magnetic to money and the lifestyle that you want to live, and really reaching in and get connected to your purpose. Can you tell us a little bit more about that amazing freebie that we'll be making available for our listeners today?
Yes, absolutely. So I've seen, again, over a decade plus of doing this, how much, to me, so much of the personal development journey comes back to identity. And, it's like whatever goal you're working on, it could be fitness, it could be relationships, it could be a career promotion, anything like that. And if you have these goals, but the identity, you're not adopting the identity of the person who would even do such things, or who would get there. If you want to be a fit person, but then you're sitting at home telling yourself that I'm not the kind of person that goes to the gym, it's just such an uphill battle to get to that goal. And so I see the same thing over and over with money. And that's why I love working with people, especially around the identity around money. Because like you were saying, you can reach incredible heights. And I see this all the time. People have so much success financially and then just absolutely sabotage themselves without even realizing, because they don't have the internal state, the identity, the frequency of somebody who is comfortable with that, who can handle it responsibly, who is willing to look at their numbers, or who feels safe in their bodies, who can regulate their nervous systems, who can even think the thoughts that don't spiral out of control and go into anxiety. So it's this whole identity transformation, I think, when we become more magnetic in general, but then especially with money and abundance and wealth consciousness.
Yeah, if you think about it like this work that Sandra does, think about it like going to the gym for your self-image.
100%. Yeah.
It's like, because how you see yourself, what you see in the mirror, it's fine for where you are. But when your business is starting to scale, things are shifting, changing, you're speaking differently, you're in front of different audiences. You now start bringing in clients that are at a different level. And then you start questioning, oh, hang on, they're a little bit higher up the food chain than I am. Who am I to serve them? And that's where this frequency, a mill adjustment actually comes in. And what you really need to do is make sure that you're one step ahead of this. And if you're listening right now and going, oh, I don't know about any of this, I'm sort of still scratching around trying to get some traction. Think about people that win the cross lotto, yeah, or whichever country you're listening from, whichever lotto you have. And think about that majority, like 3% of the people that win cross lotto only end up with more money than they started. Now, that's really quite low considering the number of people that win cross lotto. So, and that's because their self-identity doesn't match the outcome that they've received. So they will find a way to destroy it. So don't be that person. Lean in. Now that you're educated and you've had this beautiful conversation with Sandra, is lean in, grab the freebie, making you magnetic, and dive into what could a bigger picture for you look like? What could life look like at a more money, less work, a different lifestyle, and leaning into what that would look like, and then do the work, go to the gym for your self-worth, and do the work that you need to get you to that level so that you can support that new version of you. So it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did you become the person and then you get to live it, or do you live it and then become it? Fascinating question, and we can speak to both. But before we go into that, I'd love to have a conversation, Sandra, in and around boundaries, because this is a topic that really comes up for a lot of our listeners in relationships, in work as well. So can you just dive in a little bit for a few minutes and let's have a chat about boundaries?
100%. So I would say probably 95% of the women that I've worked with have, in the beginning of our work together, I would categorize their boundaries as weak sauce. They could just either non-existent or so porous. And, a lot of them are big-hearted and they're caretaker types and maybe people pleasers. And so they're so terrified of setting boundaries because they don't want to be mean. They don't want to disappoint the other person. They don't want to come across as, bitchy or whatever it is. And so they're so scared. And so they bend over backwards and do everything for everyone and are constantly giving and end up giving from an empty cup. And they're like just running on fumes. And then they end up resenting the very people that they're trying to help and be helpful to. So it ends up becoming just this foundational piece of figuring out even just what am I available for? My favorite question is just what are you available for and what are you not available for when it comes to boundaries? Because it's really hard to set a boundary if you don't know what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with. So just starting to notice like this simple things, it could be financial boundaries or personal space with another human. It could be giving your time or, how someone speaks with you. I've had clients who are, they were incredibly disrespected and mistreated by, let's say, a parent or caretaker. And then that same pattern repeats with their boss and then with the next boss and then with their partner. And it's just this like vicious cycle until they start to realize like, what part of me is allowing this? What part of me is tolerating this kind of treatment? And then they start to not tolerate as much. And it's terrifying in the beginning because, sometimes relationships fall away and they have to cut off communication with a parent or something really intense. But the amount of inner strength that then starts to emerge as they start to set these boundaries and the relief they find and the peace from not just always overgiving and like they're bowing down and serving everyone else. And suddenly they start to get to take a little bit of care of themselves. And then it's like they've uncovered this whole new energy resource. And then that gives them more and more power to set more boundaries and speak their truth more and make powerful requests. And it just snowballs in the most beautiful way.
There is so much in that paragraph. We could actually spend a couple of hours just chatting about that. So yeah, so what do we need to develop first? Do we need to develop the boundaries first? Yes, yes, we do. We need to set those boundaries and really lean into that heightened degree of identity, because that's going to allow you, it's literally going to change your reticular activating system so that you won't be seeing things the same way, that you'll be not responding to people the same way. You won't have the same outcomes. So that's a muscle that needs to be strengthened really early in on the piece. Identify your boundaries, draw the line in the sand, and don't go over them, and don't let others go over them as well. I'm a recovered people pleaser. I understand the challenges, and I still catch myself. It's been a really, well, for my story, it had been a really long time in between incidences of domestic violence, but my most recent one was 2019. So that's really not that many years ago. And then in between time, I've met the love of my life and got married and all the magnificent things. But it's really fascinating is that I had the business going, everything else was moving forward, but still I had these boundaries that I were not strong as far as love concerned, still looking for someone to love me. Strong business boundaries, weak love boundaries. So just because you've got boundaries strong in other areas, it doesn't mean that you've got them strong in every area. So you need to lean in and have a really close look at it. And I love your comment about playing above and below the line. So being that victim and using victim mentality, blaming and denying and all of those things, and then being the victor and, really taking responsibility, because we need to step up and take responsibility. We have this conversation a lot with the people that we have on the podcast, is if we were playing above the line, would we attract the people that mistreated us?
Yeah.
Ultimately saying that maybe we need to take a level of responsibility for the outcomes that we're having, and we'd have a different outcome. So I know it's a tough subject to have a chat about, and that's okay. But sometimes we might need to have a look in the mirror about these things. I love it, Sandra. These are great conversations. There's so much to dive into and have a look at. And this leveling up, doesn't matter where you are on this journey of your success, you need to check in. And I firmly believe you need to have a coach. So Sandra, what's your opinion about having coaches? I mean, you are a coach, but do you have coaches? Tell me the coach story for you.
I am such a huge fan of the coaching industry in general. I know there's a lot of shadowy parts of it too, and not great parts, but I've always trusted that those parts will just fall away because they're not sustainable. And so for those of us who are invested and want to show up with integrity in the industry, I think it continues to move in a great direction. But the beautiful part about coaching is there are so many different coaches for so many different things. And I think that we get to explore and see what kind of guidance, mentorship, coaching can I benefit for in each stage or season of our life or business or whatever it is that we're working on. And I've worked with many coaches, either one-on-one or in some sort of a group container. Sometimes I love having the community and the group container because I learn really well through examples. When I see 10, 20, 50, 100 other people working on very similar challenges, my brain goes, oh, okay. And then it sparks inspiration. Other times I just want the one-on-one so I can go really deep and have all the attention myself. And that kind of the accountability of knowing that somebody is actually expecting you to follow through on what you say you're going to do based on what you say you actually want. And somebody who's been actively listening and holding space for that is pretty hard to beat. It's pretty powerful. So I'm very biased because I'm in this world. This is my happy little space on the internet, but I am such a believer, and I think everybody can benefit from coaching in some capacity.
Oh, absolutely. And it doesn't matter which area of your life, whether it's financial, spiritual, physical, if we could get there by ourselves, we would. Just saying.
Yeah.
And we don't. We need the help of others. This is a community. We are a tribe. And I love, Sandra, that you said that different coaches for different things. I look at my development, and I'm in a group coaching for one thing, but I'm in a personal coaching for another, because they've got different outcomes, and I've got different areas of need. I myself run one-on-one VIPs, but I also run a group program as well. And that's because it's a different outcome and different needs. So depending on how best you work, look at Sandra's one-on-one work or her group work, because it depends where you are and on your journey and what is the outcome that you're looking for. I love it. Before the show, we chatted a little bit about authenticity, and this is a hot topic, especially now with AI everywhere. And, reading everyone's posts, they're starting to all look like ChatGPT, right? Most of them. And also how people are turning up. Like, let's lean into just for a few minutes and talk about authenticity. How is this something you help your clients with? And how yourself, probably start with, if you don't mind, Sandra, how did you reach that state of authenticity? And how do you help your clients with that now?
Authenticity is one of the very foundational pieces of everything I do in my own life and how I live and how I choose to at least intentionally work on showing up, and all my work with my clients too. And I think it is so important, not just in the age of AI and businesses and marketing and all of that, but it just one of my favorite quotes, I believe it's a Chinese proverb, and it goes something like, tension is who you think you should be and relaxation is who you are. And I'm just, every time I hear that, I'm like, my mind gets blown again, because that's so true for me. It's like, I spent a lot of time, like many of us do as younger people, we're trying to fit in and conforming and all of that. And I really was living from the outside in. So I was letting the world kind of tell me, who am I supposed to be okay? Who am I supposed to be loved and accepted? And so I did a lot of that, and I got really good. I thought I was like this chameleon and super adaptable. And I was like, it's this ninja superpower. I can just fit in anywhere, which is helpful to agree. I'd say it's a good life skill to have. And it's really easy to completely lose yourself doing that. So I kind of became this like wet noodle vanilla version of myself over time, more or less in different life stages, depending on who I was dating, where I was working, what I was doing at the time. But over time, I realized that was never going to work for me, because the peace, the liberation, the freedom, the relief that I truly crave is on the other side of authenticity. It has nothing to do with trying to fit in or, keep up with the Joneses or do any of that. So the more I trained myself over time to just relax into who I am, first of all, and like let go of the conditioning, the better. And then from there, starting to notice not just who am I when I just relax into who I am. And, with my clients, we always look at things like your core values and passions and purpose and what lights you up, but then also finding like, what are the unique little things that make me really me? What are my quirks and eccentricities? And then can I amplify those things a little bit? Not just because, branding and visibility and things online, like anybody who follows me online knows I love cats, I love mermaids, and I love the color. It's just very consistently talking and dancing and talking about things I love, but also just for like, I notice how intensely I light up when I honor those things that bring me joy, and how much I start to feel kind of dull and blah and this like, empty version of myself if I don't honor those just little things. And it could be silly, simple preferences. Like I love a clean and organized space. I'm always cleaning the kitchen and tidying things before I work, because it helped my brain just relax. And then from that place, I can tune in and be more inspired and authentic.
Yeah, I love it. I see a connection with a lot of the work that I do with my clients, is that once we've got that connection to their vision and their mission, and then also to their own personal branding, and connect to that, to what they want to look at, like just even in the colors and the things that they do and how they turn up, like that just becomes who they are, outward and inward, so that there's no two faces. It's the same thing inside and out. As you were talking, Sandra, I was thinking about the movie Runaway Bride, and how she like has her eggs 8 different ways, because they're the 8 different guys she dated. And it just makes me think, I love the movie, and I just watched it recently again, is that, sometimes we have taken on other people's stories and made them our own, and that's not authentically who we are. And I know myself as a survivor, I acted a lot as a chameleon, because it's made me safe, because then I wouldn't get hit. I wouldn't be, it wouldn't be disruptive. But the truth of the matter is I'm incredibly disruptive. But it's so we create these cocoons around us so that we can fit. And this is why Healing Through Love works really about having a safe space to have these conversations, safe space to create Pamper Days. So something, Sandra, you might not know, is that we create Pamper Days where local wellness practitioners come together and hold the space and do their practice on our survivors, whether it be a facial, do their hair, do their nails, whatever it is that the service that they provide, they share that love for a day for free. And now we're doing them globally. So we just did our first one in the States, and we're very excited the outcome of that. And we've got 8 people around the world who are helping us to bring these Pamper Days to life in different communities. So if you're listening today to this podcast and you would like to put your hand up either as a volunteer or a practitioner, please reach out to Healing Through Love, because as I say, we've got 8 at the moment, but we're expanding every year to have more locations. And we'd love to, if you've got a heart for change and you want to hold the space for people to heal, we would love to have you in our proximity. I love the work that you do, and I love this authentically looking at yourself and starting with this foundation space of your vision and your mission and your values, because if we don't have that, how can we be authentic and turn up? And that sort of leads to the boundaries as well. When we know what our values are, then we can really have a look at our boundaries. Are we crossing them? What's happening there? Do we need to rethink that? Look, it all fits together, and it's all underpinned by having that self-worth, that identity that holds us at a different frequency so that we can show up. And that makes us magnetic. When we can get to that place, because this is all frequency, thoughts frequency, everything's frequency, we then start to magnetically attract the clients that we need, the people that we need, everything that we need in our life to help us feel fulfilled and move to that next level. I love it. You're speaking my language, Sandra. We could just chat all day. But before we go, I'd really like you to just share with our audience, how are some of the ways that they can work with you?
Yes, so the easiest way is to just go to my website or my Instagram, or check out the Making You Magnetic freebie. My favorite way to work with my clients is one-on-one. That's when I like to really get in there. Like right now I'm picturing like a mad scientist with all the protective gear on and just like arms, elbow deep in the work. I do some group programs and smaller things too, but my real love right now is just going really deep one-on-one and helping people create the deep lasting transformation they want, especially women with their finances. And transforming their relationship with money is my favorite piece.
Relationship with money, because that's what it is. It is a relationship. And when you can make that relationship solid, when you can make it magnetic, money just comes. And you're going, oh yeah, whatever, Sharlene. No, it just comes from the strangest places. As I up-leveled my magnetic attraction to money, money came from places I didn't even know it could come from. And isn't that interesting? It's absolutely fascinating. So it's not our job to figure out the how. It's our job to hold the frequency for that attraction, and it literally just comes. And I know when someone said that to me years before I was in this space, I'm like, whatever. You don't know. I can't even pay my bills. So I've been there. And then out the other side, when you're living in that frequency and the money just comes, you need to learn a new skill set of how to manage the money and all the things. And these are the things that Sandra helps you through and walks you in that direction. So imagine a life for yourself where you're living your dream, where you're living on purpose, where you are magnetic to money, where every day you're waking up and you are living that purpose, and it is good. Life is good. And these are the things that Sandra can work with you on. And it starts with jumping on and doing the magnetic, making you magnetic to money. So that link is here in the show notes and also in the show description. And check out her website for her one-on-one work and the other offerings that she has. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so good. So if we have a Pamper Day in your local area, Sandra, we would love to have you come along as one of the practitioners to meet our people and help hold the space, because the truth of the matter is the relationship in general, but also relationship with money, is one of the challenges we have as a survivor, because it is all about relationship. And that's why we're in that space, because of the stories that we tell ourselves. And this inside work, and it is inside work, Sandra, isn't it? It's inside work is going to help you up level and live a different life. So yeah, it's all important.
It is a game changer, and it's part of the reason I love the money relationship, especially, is that it is also a portal to everything else. We work on cleaning up our money boundaries. We end up cleaning up our other boundaries. We get more organized and systematized and just take responsibility and dare to look at the scary things in our finances. And it's so much easier to do that in the other areas as well. So it's like we're working on this money thing, and then all the other areas of our life start to up level, and we start to step into more of our power in those areas as well. It's like this magic catch-all system where it's also like a portal to some of our deepest childhood conditioning and trauma too. So it's almost like a added bonus.
And they are all stories. Everything is story. Everything is story.
Yeah.
And when we can identify what those stories are, because it starts with identifying them, and then you can put them aside and you can rewrite them to have a new story. Because if you can believe one thing, you can believe another. It's just true. And you can just shift your belief process to believe that other things are possible. So I know I've gone from a woman who's been homeless and been a survivor to, out the other side, running a huge business, loving life, and now in a space where we can run not one but two charities, one for domestic violence and one for homeless people, and giving back to the community. All of this and more is so available for you if you're listening today. And it starts by finding the right coach. And I love having this conversation with Sandra. I'll continue this conversation with Sandra after we finish the podcast today. And it's great to have you in our proximity. Now, as closing words, Sandra, I'd love you to share some words of wisdom to our listeners today.
I would say my wish for all the listeners, which is also my wish for everyone, women especially, is to know that you matter. Know that your voice matters, your story matters, you matter, your heart matters, your work matters, all of it. And you're worthy, period, end of story. Nothing to prove. You just are worthy.
I love that, Sandra. Thank you so much. That is so beautiful. Thank you today for listening to Healing Through Love. We look forward to having a conversation with you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.